Hello everyone, this is Riccardo Masini and this is Vlog and this is Eagles of the Empire, Spanish Eagles. Eagles of the Empire system, this is the title published by Compass Games, using this system, which is actually a quite old system. It belongs to the mid-90s by Brian Miller with Games USA or USA Games, don't remember, with titles such as Borodino, Friedland and Hello. And then it was taken by Avalanche Press, which we used for the series Rome at War about antiquity, but also War of the States about American Civil War, War of the Empires, about Austro-Prussian War, and so on, and many others. But there were quite some troubles between Avalanche Press and Brian Miller. Brian Miller took the system to Compass Games that republished it and got it to version 3.0, continuing its Napoleonic series and taking it to Spain. This is Talavera, which will not be news for all the Richard Sharp fans out there. And yes, I am a Richard Sharp fan, of course. So Brian Miller took this system to Spain. There is Spanish Eagle, which has Talavera and Albuera, but also Medina de Rio Seco, which is something of, I'd say, a mini game, a single game in the series, and he is working now on a title about Austerlitz, even if Avalanche Press already has an Austerlitz with this system, but a title that is not very well received by the players. Anyway, if you don't know the system, you will see its main feature here. That is, you see the map, no hexagons, there are areas, irregular areas, but the most important thing is that long units, that is infantry units, can enter the area and they can orientate any way they like, and thus determine which areas are in front of them, on their side, on the flank and behind. If I'm oriented like this, these two areas are on my front, these other two areas are my side, and these other are my rear, judging from this line. But if I position myself here, and I can position freely inside this area as long as my unit stays inside this area, you see things are quite different, because this is my flank, but all those two are my front. So this is a bit hybrid system, an hybrid system between board war games and miniature war games, 3D games. You have to consider long units more or less as miniature bases, and go on to see their facing, to determine their facing as you would in a miniature game. You will see here Rafen, which is advancing and is conformed to this side of this irregular area, but if it was like that, its orientation would be totally different. Okay, this gives a very fluid look to the battlefield. Also, the areas, at least in the Napoleonic titles, they are calibrated, so plain area, clear areas are bigger. It's much easier to navigate them, while rough terrain areas are smaller, or with rivers they are harder to navigate well. You have more problems in facing, and so on and so on. Also, combat system with a lot of dice here. That is why I have a lot of dice here. Bucket of dice. You just roll the dice of the attack value, or obviously with modifiers, with the usual host of modifiers, and you strike damage. Get a hit for every 6 on the dice. Command activation is alternated. Partial activation, you try to activate some of your formations, but you don't know how many you will activate. Possibly you will fail your activation, then it's up to your adversary to do the same, and when both players fail their activations one after the other, the turn is over. So The turns have a variable length. Also, the activation is not always the same. It is highly replayable, very good for solitaire playing, and very nice. And essentially, the core of the system is just like this: confirmation, area confirmation, bucket of dice, and alternate activation. And then you have lots of modifiers for the various titles, lots of special rules. The Napoleonic titles, the Eagles of the Emperor, are more or less on the medium complexity level. For Novo, which is a title on medieval battles, is quite more elaborated, more complex. I've not played it, I just read the reviews and read some comments on BGG. I have the impression that it's a bit too much elaborated, a bit too much sophisticated. Rome at War is that easy, even too much, because you have just squares, you don't have irregular areas, but it is very light, very nice, very fun, very quick. And War of the States and War of the Empires is more or less in the middle, so it is interesting as well, if you manage to overlook the terrible Avalanche Press maps. But that is the problem with Avalanche Press, which we all know. So, from an history point of view, for the simulation value, well, it is quite good, because the system is simple, it's easy. It's a good template upon which you can put many special rules, but really gives you a feeling of the fluidity of the battles, both in command and Napoleonic titles. Put very much attention on the different chain of commands, the different asymmetries, but also every incarnation of the system is quite good, and then manages to recreate an historical feeling with not so many rules. It is a bit random, yes, with a bucket of dice. I read a variant rule to get a more average result, that is when you have 6 strength points, 6 dice to roll, you get an automatic hit, and then you roll another die for the dice after, and if you get that number of dice, you get a second hit. For example, you should roll 10 dice, okay, you just do 1 hit with the first 6, and then you have the other 4, then you roll another die, from 1 to 4 you get a second hit, for example. But I like the bucket of dice, because statistically each one, the random gets closer to the average statistical curve the more dice we roll. I know it is counterintuitive, but that's it. Also another great thing about the system, the units have a gradual step loss, so they have side A, then a B, then a C, then a D. Maybe the C is they become short, they lose their value. So also this very, as you see, lots of small stuff. Also the Napoleonic titles, how they deal with cavalry charges and counter charges in a very simple and effective way, and I really like it. The rules and the game flow is very dynamic, it's very streamlined. Maybe sometimes a bit too much rules, especially in Napoleonic and Fornovo, but in Eagles of the Empire, but not so much at least in Eagles of the Empire, so it is always manageable. Also, not very big maps, not too many counters. Okay, you see a lot of counters here, but this is not so much for a Napoleonic, believe me, for a Napoleonic standard. And after a while, all these small stuff, all these small details, well, it all clicks together and gets very nice and works, and really works. Sometimes this area system is a bit gamey, because okay, 1 millimeter ahead, 1 millimeter. Also, this is manageable. The problem is that not all titles are of the same quality. They are a bit inconstant, and sometimes, the Eagles of the Empire, the Napoleonic titles are all good. The ancient titles, well, they are very interesting. Also lots of not so well-known battles about the conquest of Britannia. and other or the late Roman Empire, but it's not so very well known. Others are not so much. We spoke about Austerlitz. Also Napoleon in the Desert is not... It's very strange. It's a very ugly map. That is also a bit strange. Chickamauga and Chattanooga, great titles for the Civil War, but the map is awful. It is one of the worst Avalanche Press maps, and believe me, they made very bad maps. Anyway, after that, even if it is in constant quality level, in general, they're nice, they're fun. Even when they have some problems, you can easily correct them, you can easily overlook them, because they're fun, they're just great to play, but they also have this tactical feeling with the maneuvers and the conformation, and you can detach units, and you have your commanders, your officers. So they're very fun, they're very playable games. Also, I'd say that the Napoleonic battles take 2 to 3 hours to play, but the ancient battles, for example, no more than 1 hour, so 1 hour maximum. So this is very, very easy. Also, the Compass games, they have lots of player aids, very good player aids with setups, and you see, yeah, the different chains of command. So very nice quality. Avalanche players have not so many player aids, Avalanche, but on BGG you will find everything. It is a bit difficult to orientate yourself between errata, different versions. This is a system that has more or less 30 years. Sometimes it shows, sometimes it doesn't show, because it was much ahead of their times, possibly even of our own times. But if you manage to click everything together, it becomes a really good, great system. Highly replayable, we have said, with alternate activation and also all the random elements. Very solitaire friendly, and often you have many scenarios in the same box, possibly different versions of the same battle, or different battles in the scenario, in the game box. So there's a very good balance between price and content. The problem is the price we don't know, because it is not so easy to find it. So you will have to resort to the used market, and the prices will be variable. But in general, you find those games at not so high a price, and they're very, very, very good games. So they have a very good price and content balance. As a conclusion, I love these games. Those were games that I was playing in the 90s, when I was essentially alone playing war games, me or my father. But I played them much solitaire, because it was so easy to play solitaire, these kind of games. They great look, great feeling. They really feel like a battle. You have the French coming in, and then you have the reinforcements, and you have the British and the Spanish already set up, and you see the lines following the terrain in a very natural way. The area conformation system is fantastic. I love it. And I say this is a series that has been highly damaged by a lot of mismanagement. I hope to see it a bit reordered, reorganized. I'm looking forward for this new Austerlitz title. I hope to see it very, very soon, with the good reorganization. Maybe a new series about, I don't know, Frederick the Great's battles, for example, or other battles like that. I think it will be a great light war game, a great introductory war game, even if I don't like the term introductory. Why? Because there's not so many rules, so you can tweak, and those rules, the structure, the framework is so good that you can calibrate it to whatever level of complexity you want. So this will be also a good commands and colors competitor if done right. So lots of potential here. It is almost a lost game. It's almost a lost gem, but it is here. It can be found, and really, if you can find it, even one of those boxes, for example, Spanish Eagles, buy it immediately. I am sure you will like it. You just have to dedicate a bit of time to reorganize all those little stuff that needs to be. You have to download the latest version of the rules, maybe some errata, and maybe pay attention to some small details here and there, or forgive some small problems, but with the good support materials, thank you BGG, you learn it quick and you get it playing, and you play it fast. It is involving, it is nice, it is dramatic, it is full of great moments, and really, it is playable, it is manageable, absolutely. I say once again, ahead of your times, and possibly even a bit ahead for our own times, because even now the area, someone will be not so happy about how the areas are managed, but I really love it. Really like it. It is a medium complexity game, and in some instances even coming to the light side of the wargaming spectrum. This was Eagles of the Empire, but all this system, Wars of the Empire, Wars of States, and Rome at War, I really recommend them for another different but very interesting take on wargames in various periods. So, goodbye, this was Riccardo Mazzini, and as always, don't be scared, it's just wargames. Bye!